hockey fan, you understand that Thursday was a very good night. But if you're a casual who comes here to just get picks and then leaves, you're the NBA guy, you're like, it was an okay night, pretty good night. But if you look at the breakdown of most of those games, nearly every single one went exactly the way I thought, other than the Islanders. Although the Islanders outplayed Arizona and deserved to win, clearly was not a bunch of goals in that one. That one was off, but every single other bet hit. Rangers started a little slow, but then blew out Detroit. You had the Blues, they won that crusty tight one. I knew it was going to come down to the end. They eked that one out, and I believe they got the empty netter. The Avalanche won comfortably at home, the regular guy bet. And then the one that really, this was a 4 of 5 night on the calls, but the double empty netter with the under in the Flyers-Columbus game. That game ended exactly like I thought. You had Columbus, they went up 3-1, and then they just held on. They knew that they wanted to win. They didn't press guys forward. It's 3-2 with 2 minutes left. We had the over-under on 6.5. 2 empty netters. I understand during the playoffs when you pull the goalie early, but 2 empty netters to go over, that's a bad beat. But even with the bad beat, we still had a winning night. Rangers and over in that one hit. The only ones that really were off, like I said, were the Islanders and the under in that one. But another winning night. Yet another winning night after a huge night. It's been a pretty good week, if you ask me. I think this should be a weekend for you guys to enjoy. I know I will. I will not be here with you tomorrow and the following day. But we still got these Friday bets. It's a perfect day to utilize that DraftKings promotion, which we still got going on. You bet $5 on any money line. Could have been any one of those teams last night. You could have taken Colorado like the regular guys. If you put $5 on them, DraftKings Sportsbook would have credited you with $200 to use on future games. So just check the link in the description and it will give you the specifics for that promotion. I know I've explained it a bunch of times, but just in case you're one of these people who keeps checking off to the sides, like you're one of those girls on Instagram who checks your profiles but doesn't like it. You know, they keep tabs on you, but they refuse to give you a double tap. If that's been you, you still got time. You can take advantage of that promotion. And we will start to look at these Friday bets. Now, I'm going to come back to the first one on the slate. I'm going to come back to Pittsburgh versus Toronto because while I feel like I got an okay assessment of that game, it's probably one of my least favorite ones on the night. So I'm going to go to the next game first, which is Tampa Bay visiting Washington. I'm telling you, I watched Washington the other night. Once again, they look slow, abysmal, and Pittsburgh essentially blew them out. I don't understand how they're accumulating points. Here's what I'll say. The bet for this game for me is the under. I'm going under 6.5 simply because I just don't trust Washington. And Tampa has been they are really a one-line team and power play reliant. You're seeing their goal totals. They're never putting up big scores like they used to back in the day, and it makes sense. They've lost so many players, and you're really starting to see that on a game in, game out basis. So when you got them going into Washington, who also has trouble scoring, I'm going to take the under. Here's what I'll say. If you're going to bet a team on this game, you may as well add the over-under. You want to know why? Because every single Washington win, they've scored more than 3 goals in. So if you like Washington in this one, you take Washington with the over. If you like the Lightning in this one, you take the Lightning and the under. Because if we're going to go by what's happened so far, if Washington's scoring, it's the only way they're going to win. I don't even know how they've put up 4 in that many games. But if you're going to take Washington, you pair that with the over. You take Tampa, you pair that with the under. So that's number 1. Then you got the Sharks versus the Stars. Sharks, they're in a giving mood. Blues needed a win. Blues were on a big slide, and what happened? They got that win. Although it was close, although it was a little crusty, Dallas, they've played mostly for the entirety of the year pretty good hockey. They came out very hot, been kind of 500 as of late, but you kind of know what you're getting out of them, and I believe they should be able to win this game. This is just a classic one where you got a bad team in San Jose, played last night, now they're playing the next night. Stars didn't play on Thursday, now they're going to be rested for Friday at home. I'm going to take the Dallas Stars. I understand there's a big line. I don't mind if you want to go 60 minutes. If you can, take them by the standard money line, you have the money laid out for you this week, right? Right? Yeah.
Sniff this.
Then lastly, you got that team who came through immensely for us the other night in the Minnesota Wild. Now, I guess I should have said at the end of that, where I said they're going to not score in the first period, then they're going to find their offense and take off. we're going to transition that momentum into the next game. We're getting a good price on them. I understand they've disappointed us earlier in the week, but then they came through for us big time. I'm going to go back them. They got shut out in back-to-back games, struggled in the first half of that.
It's more a matter, Geoff, of why I didn't bet him as opposed to like I didn't want to bet him. I just if like we had, honestly, it's as simple as if we had putting for dough this week, he would have been mentioned in the show. I would have had him as a mid-range. I would have I would have just betted the process. But because we didn't have the show, because I was basically off Tuesday, except for, you know, the one written piece, and I was fearful of him being in there for now like the fourth week, out of sight, out of mind.
It's like last week with Henley. I didn't tweet him out because I've tweeted about him about 10 different times. And then of course I still bet him because I'm just a degenerate. I couldn't help myself, but
nice.
You know, nobody who followed me benefited last week. So.
Nope. That's hilarious, man. Well, look, you know, Sahith isn't out of it. I had Denny McPutts in there, so he's.
What's he up to?
Yeah, he's through 5 now. I also had Calum Tarrant as a long shot, 200-1 long shot that I took, and I also took him top 40. So if
that's nice.
Yeah, if he could just make the fucking cut, man, you know.
I mean, none of this.
Yeah, all good. Welcome in. It's a Friday, which means a lot. It could mean a bunch of different things for you out there. But what it means to us is that we get an opportunity to stretch out and look at a full slate worth of games here, the early the afternoon, for the NHA NFL edition of the Strategy Show. That's Geoff. I'm Eytan. Mike is producing, so we appreciate you first and foremost out there. You can hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. We'll tell you how to match your first deposit at No House Advantage. It's actually pretty simple. You just sign up and use our promo code Stokastic, which is the name of the site that you're on. So they're very simple, but don't worry. We'll remind you. We'll remind you. And I love these shows because, you know, Thursday, you and Pete, Monday, you and I, we get put in a box. And I know Pete well enough to make this statement for him, at least. And you and I work together now long enough as well. But we're not box people, right? We're not like, you know, stay in this one little area and you're lucky to get some third wide receiver for the Titans and you'll take it and like it. Now you at least get to stretch out some, Geoff.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, you're right. I'm definitely not a box person. You know, you put me in a one task place, I'm gonna go crazy. But that's why I work for like 5 different sites, and you know, I do 10 different shows a day, right? Because I like to talk about stuff.
Look, some people enjoy the cubicle life, but that's not us. Yeah, that's all.
Definitely not us. But yeah, no. I mean, look, the last night was just. I mean, we talked about it on the show. Should have really been hammering the unders. I almost don't think we talked about it enough. But you know, if you want full under on, I mean, I don't even know who went over. I know it was a couple guys. Like our Terrace Marshall call was good. Actually, he ended up going over 1 catch. Like other than him, though, I mean, it was ugly out there.
No. It's awful game. Awful game. You get to put that behind you at the very.
I just want to put this whole start of the week behind me from a betting perspective too. You're a nice guy. So you haven't called me out on my Andy Dalton call. And then
you know, because here's why, because I was doing the NBA show with Gundacker after you guys yesterday, and you dipped out. Now, I know you're probably going to lie to me and say like you had some family thing, like you had to walk the dog or you had to change a diaper or you had to be a father to your child, you know, some excuse that's going to pour out here. But I don't even think I saw your face in the Zoom changeover when we normally get that crossover. So maybe there was a little Dalton shame that motivated you to get out.
As subconscious, but there's Dalton shame. Yeah. Just my brain is like, no, it's Eytan. I got to get out of here, man. Yeah,
there's just something about it. It's going to happen again this week. It's going to happen again. I'm telling you.
It is actually. And I think I've learned the lessons of my ways with that.
Oh my goodness. I love it, man. All right. So we'll do the early slate, then we'll bounce into the afternoon slate as well, right? So we have our projections up. They're free for everybody, of course, the optimal lineup, and that's where it's just simple plug and play here. So where would you like, and maybe it's a projection or maybe it's something in a game, right? Like Raheem Mostert is going to pop up as our top play as far as the under is concerned. We have Justin Jefferson and even Brevin Jordan popping in for some unders, but maybe there was a game that you think offered a couple of plays that you'd like to target, or if you'd like to start with Mostert, you know, where we are up at the top as well. Don't have many overs. In fact, it's only Najee Harris, actually. It's rare that we have an over that high that's not an interception prop, but that's really the only over that we have here.
Yeah, no, and especially with it being on Najee Harris of all people, who's actually like had a terrible season. But we haven't projected for a big week. So yeah, again, it's that New Orleans Saints team. So definitely not going to go against that anymore. I'm not going to give the Saints any credit. But yeah, I mean, why don't we start with Mostert? I mean, I think the Browns Miami game is pretty interesting. You know, Mostert now has Jeff Wilson to deal with. So, I mean, yeah, I think that the fact that he's up there just with this kind of prop, just this kind of projection for an under, to be honest, I mean, that makes total sense. Not a player I want to go over on after seeing Jeff Wilson take 12 carries last week. The other thing with Mostert is it looked like he was going to break out and potentially be like a number one back at some point this year, but like it never happened. Like he had that one big game. It was against Pittsburgh, actually. And then it's just like, okay, he's not really getting any catches because Waddle and Tyreek get them all. And they don't rush the ball that much anyways, because they have this quick attack. And now he's losing carries. Yeah, you go under here, man. I don't have also, I mean, you add to that too, like the weakness of the Browns defense, like with Garrett back is really like, I think they're secondary anyways. So no pushback there. I think the one thing you could look to be contrarian on is, I mean, we have like, where's my Tyreek Hill prop? There we go. I mean, we have like no house has given us massive props on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, we have to project them as under 104. Waddle's at 76.5. But again, we're talking about the pick'em contest here. It's a DFS, tournament strategy style. I think that going over on Jalen Waddle is like, I really like him just as a DFS play, pure DFS play this week. And if I like him, I mean, I'm projecting him for a big week here. I mean, I think that he's proven that, he's not going to get the targeting that Tyreek Hill does, but his yards per reception is fine. He's proven that his upside is just as big. So again, like you're playing to get a lower on prop. You're trying to hit and correlate with your game picks. You go under Mostert. One of these receivers is probably going to go over, even with the big totals. And I think Waddle's in a really good spot. Denzel Ward is back, should be covering Tyreek a little bit. I think this is a good spot for Jalen Waddle. That's probably where I would go when I'm starting to correlate with this game.
I love it, man. And especially because, and I was just looking at this here, you cannot play, you may be able to, but it's going to be like one random book in whatever legal betting state you live in out there. But I don't even know if you can find Raheem Mostert props on the book, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I know Jeff, I think I saw one book with like Jeff Wilson Jr. props and no Mostert props.
That's what I'm looking at now. A couple of different books. Actually checked 3 books here in PA, and it's just that, my friend. As you mentioned, Jeff Wilson, yes, and Raheem Mostert, no. So you're getting, and the reason why I bring that up is because that's a gift. Like that's a gift that No House Advantage is giving you out there.
Yeah. And I don't think the general public is necessarily going to be like, realize it, like I'm not anticipating that prop being like 80% owned or something. I'm sure it'll be a heavier owned prop, but it's still only 51 yards. I'm sure there's people drifting in, who don't watch this show and giving you all the good info and will be like, hey, like it's only 51, Mostert's still the back. So yeah, that's a great one. I mean, just put that one in, start with your under. And like I said, you could really game stack this one because I like this game for points. You got like from a DVOA perspective too, like Miami's pass defense isn't any good. No. They don't get a ton of pressure. I think Brissett will have time to get the ball to Amari Cooper. The only thing that scares me about Cooper in this game, his road splits. I don't know what this guy's like. He was the same way with the Raiders and the Cowboys. You put him on the road for some reason, and like sometimes he disappears, but I got to lean the over on him. I think that's a good stack on the other side with Amari Cooper. I just like this game. for yards and stuff, and the receivers. I just think it's a good spot. Like I said, 2 weaker pass defenses. So I would look to Cooper potentially as an over 2 as well.
Yeah, I like that play because you mentioned there just trying to take advantage of pass defenses, maybe more so than anything else. And the expectation is that there's going to be some points, or at least throwing a little easier than just handing it off left and right to the obvious plays there as far as, Chubb or even Hunt on the ground. So looking at Mostert, the other guys, Justin Jefferson, for example, his receptions. Now, people may be a little surprised at that he's at 7.5 on NHA. We have him projected for 2 full grabs below that. The Packers secondary is definitely not an easy, just, you're going to be able to do whatever you want against them. Dallas.
Bills.
Oh, what am I talking about? Minnesota. I'm all, geez. Bills, thank you. But here, no. Even more my point. They're missing 1.5 bodies, possibly up to 3 bodies by the time they kick off in the secondary. So this doesn't have anything to do with Josh Allen's UCL elbow. I'm just a little surprised that there is that wide of a gap between Justin Jefferson's line on NHA and where Alex has him projected for free, mind you, out there on Stokastic.
Yeah. Like Jefferson is definitely that game's interesting too, because there's some wind that might be picking up. The last time I checked, like the weather wasn't a disaster, but it was a little bit cooler. Obviously, it's Buffalo, and then also the winds potentially up to 15 miles per hour. So I'm okay with I definitely lean under. I think it's a good under, but I like you. I wasn't expecting to be 2 points here. I wasn't expecting to be like the second heaviest prop. So that tells you something. I think, and I don't know, like that whole game is there's a lot of variables involved. I mean, I think that if Allen doesn't play, there's a high potential that game just, I don't want to compare it to last night's game, but that it could just be like a bit of a bore fest with, I know we're talking about Justin Jefferson, and he obviously overcomes a lot, and he can kind of go off against anyone, but I feel pretty good about that under, to be honest. I definitely would, if you're asking me which one be more contrarian, would be like Mostert or Jefferson. I'd rather go over on Jefferson, obviously, but I still kind of agree with that. Was a little surprised it was that strong though as well. Yeah.
Is there another one maybe that jumps out, and we can look at the earlier slates, like Denver, Tennessee. There are going to be some obvious ones where, maybe it's honestly, you don't really have much at all there to work with. But if there was anything individual, maybe on our line, you have a couple of more unders here, like Brevin Jordan and Chase Claypool may just be smaller plays that not many people are getting to overall. Then our projections clearly have that there. But Claypool pops up a couple of times, and you mentioned that matchup there. I don't want to keep going back to to that game by any means, but I don't know. Jared Goff, for example, that stands out. 250.5, 214.5. That team is god awful on the road. Yeah. There is elements to some expectation in Chicago. He turns the football over a lot, and they haven't been scored like early on. Geoff, everybody was enamored with this high-powered offense because they were scoring a ton, but they've been grounded at least more often than not over the last 3 weeks.
No, that's a great one. I mean, I feel better. I almost feel as good about that under as I do about the Mostert under, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, asking Jared Goff to throw for 250 outdoors in Chicago against the team in Chicago that plays at a slower pace. I mean, Holy cow. Like, there's square bets and then there's square bets, right? Like, I mean, there's no contrarian angle here with Jared Goff. It's just like, take the under. And I mean, like you said, there's no Hawkinson. There's no fully healthy DeAndre Swift out there getting him like 60-yard screen passes, right? So, yeah, man. I mean, that to me is a real good one for sure. And that's one, like, I mean, I like, you look at Mostert, you look at Goff. Those are two. I mean, and we haven't said this like too many main slates, but like these are strong props. Like these are strong unders that you want to put up high in your lineup and just be damned the ownership, man. Like these feel really good. And then, I'll throw out this Kamara under rush yards too. I believe TJ Watt is back for the Steelers.
Yes.
Even if, and even honestly, even if he's not, I mean, the Steelers are just the traditional funnel to the pass. The secondary sucks, but like they're gonna pile up against the run here. They're gonna force Andy Dalton to beat them, right? So like Kamara, what we've seen from him too, you know, he's had like one good rush game, but his rush attempts can go fluctuate as well. The yards per carry can be kind of random with him. And like for me, I mean, 70.5, and we have this projected as a really strong under that, you know, like it's just too big a prop on the road against a good rush defense. So, which could be getting a big boost. So I kind of like that one as well. If you really want to target that game, like the one player on the Saints, I am pretty bullish on this week because of the secondary he's going up against. We just saw AJ Brown just clown the secondary. Yep. Is Chris Olave. So, you know, you don't have to pair the two. Like I think the Kamara under is way stronger, obviously, than like, and you know, you don't need to add a mix into it. But if you do kind of want to like game stack there and get a little bit of a contrarian prop, I think Olave's got a good chance for a breakout game. So
yeah, I mean 68.5 receiving yards, 4.5 receptions, definitely doable numbers by all means. And I'm just trying to go down. And look, everybody loves overs. I get it. Zay Jones pops up. I mean, now we're getting into that 62 percentile. So if you are building, Pacheco's on there. Is on there. So you're getting into like the low 60s here. Even Robert Woods, if you want to take that risk. But, you know, why? Right? Like you're at that point now where it's almost like, why force a Robert Woods receiving yards unless you think that nobody in the entire field is going to get to this prop, and maybe you can put him as like a 10-point prop, but even still, like that's a big ask.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also going up against like potentially the best second, like from DVOA. I think Denver is the best passing defense. So yeah, Robert Woods is no. I mean, you don't need to do that. Really, you just don't.
I love it.
So yeah, no, like, I mean, I think that this is, you know, the way it's setting up and with the props we're getting. Yeah, you don't need to look for overs. I mean, if one pops up, and I think we mentioned Najee Harris. I mean, I don't even know, like, I don't even like that. Like, I think that almost just feels like a trap. So again, like what has Harris done? Now he's ceding carries to like Warren in the backfield. So I would just keep hitting unders, you know, like we've got, what else do we have? I mean, TJ Hawkinson is another
That's
like Minnesota Viking.
Yep.
I mean, they're asking you to get 5 receptions from TJ Hawkinson against the Bills. That's a big ask. That feels like a fairly good one to me. You know, just go.
The one is interesting. I don't know where you go with this. And
that one is interesting. Yep.
Right. It's a big number, 86.5. But I also think now some of this may be what you believe the game flow to be, but Doug Peterson knows Reed well enough that I don't think he's going to come in with a game plan of asking Trevor Lawrence to match Patrick Mahomes to throw the football 50 times. And they probably won't move away from that unless they physically have to, right? Unless it's like, oh my God, shit, we're down 17-0, 6 to go in the second quarter. So I feel like, I don't know, like, I hate to say this because it's a 69.7% chance of going under, but as much as I would love to go under that big total, I could also see them sticking with him. And he has a couple of big plays in him. Like, that's probably more of a pass, I think, than slamming it as an under.
I am on the exact same page. I mean, I think Eytan has looked fantastic. He's got a coach who's full believer in him, 80% of the snaps. And you look at this whole situation. I mean, I won't even get, I actually think Jacksonville is very live to win this game outright. The Chiefs just played an AFC South team. They just got beat, and it was a tough game. Overtime, going up against Derrick Henry, they allowed 6 yards per carry. The rush defense, actually, the last few games too, it's been regressing. You could make the argument that Jacksonville is an even better rushing team now. They're fresher. You've got a fresher running back in Travis Etienne, who's just, I think at this point is just better than Derrick Henry. Jacksonville's going to do the exact same thing that Tennessee just did. And I think they're going to do it better because they've actually got a competent quarterback who, can move the ball a little bit. He's going to be able to pass. So, Kansas City was sitting there waiting for Derrick Henry and they couldn't stop him. They can't necessarily just sit back because, Lawrence will hurt them a little bit with Chris Kirk or something. I really think Etienne's going to have a big game here. And yeah, it's such a big prop that do you want to put it like way up? No, but could you include it as a contrarian play lower down?
Yeah, I can
absolutely, man. I think it's fine. Again, you could look to pair it on the other side. I mean, the Jacksonville secondary sucks. You know, it's unfortunate because the way the Chiefs have developed, and now that you've got Kadarius Toney in there, I mean, I don't even know who you would take as an over. Probably just take Kelsey over on the other side, right? That's the easy one. He's only got a 78.5 yardage prop. We don't have receptions, but you know, you could definitely correlate those two. Juju has like a 60, but his snaps are down. Tony might play more. Hardman's coming on. Like, I think you just go over on Kelsey on the other side, but I think that game's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be close, and I think the Jags are gonna be able to run the ball a lot. So
there is something to that. Now, our projections don't have the afternoon up yet, so I don't know if you've looked at that or if you just want to stay here in the final minute or so in this early slate with what we have up. Totally up to you.
Yeah, no, I mean the later slate's a little weird too. Like, we got questionable quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't even know who's playing for the Packers at wide receiver anymore. I mean, honestly, like, Jesus Christ. I mean, who are we going to target there anyways? The Colts are just that. I mean, that whole game, like Renfro's out, like the Colts Raiders.
It's a bad game. It's a bad game to bet. I imagine DFS like all around. You're right.
Yeah, I wish.
All right, so what about? We'll stay early.
Yeah.
We talked about Goff. You mentioned the defense though for Denver as well. Goff, as far as the same prop, I should clarify. Russell Wilson sits at 247.5. We have projected at 213.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a similar gap as we just talked about with Goff.
It is. I mean, I don't feel as good about it as Goff, but like it's a massive prop, right? Like, you know, the Broncos do have Dulcich back. Dulcich now he's been kind of gaining them yards, but it's even though I kind of like Denver in this game, and I think they're gonna be able to pass the ball and Russell be healthier, like I'm not going to go and recommend it. It's just too big. I mean, like 247. The other thing is like the Denver defense could just take over, right? And I mean, you could get a healthy dose of Latavius Murray and Melvin Gordon in this game. There's too many pass to the under. It's fine. It's not my favorite under on the board, but like for passing props, but it's fine. I just mentioned like the Jags. I mean, I actually don't mind the Lawrence under there either. At 250, that's a big prop for him to hit over. I know the idea is that it's a shootout versus the Chiefs, but I really think they're going to be able to run the ball a ton there. So that's another under. I really don't mind on Trevor Lawrence. And then like you mentioned the Russ props. I mean, at this point, I mean, you're kind of just being stupid to take any overs on the Broncos offense, just because it's not that they can't go over. It's just they're just so variable, and they've just been so inefficient. You know, Cortland Sutton, everyone thought he was going to be the easy guy to target, 8 catches per game. His targets have drifted off. So I can't even sit here with a straight face and be like, you know, do fade or go over or whatever, because, you know, it's just so variable. So I think the Broncos are a good one just to kind of forget about, if I'm being dead honest. I know there's a few games like that, but you got to take the easy ones. Like we brought up the Detroit game and the Bears as well. Actually, here that Bears game is. I'm still big on Darnell Mooney here. I know his prop's bigger than the books. It's probably almost 10 yards bigger at 52.5, but he's gone over 50 receiving yards. I didn't go over last week, but last week was a little bit of a weather thing, and he still caught like 6 passes. I think just keep taking the over on Mooney. I think Claypool is going to keep opening up the field. He's got a better matchup this week anyways. So that's a player I actually don't mind going over on. And we have it projected basically for as kind of like a neutral play anyways. So
that's a good play though, because it's at 60%. And this is another example of why you should use what we have along with the show and build your lineups here in NHA, because you may have missed that. Like you may have built a bunch of lineups and you don't get down to something that on site is listed at 60, 61%. But then you hear Geoff, right? You just did a really good job of laying out why there's an added value or even piece of angle. And look, not everything is built into everything, right? It doesn't mean that somebody misses something. It just means that not everything is always built in. And if you have something that you like, and I think that's absolutely it, where that should push Mooney up a couple of percentage points, and that could give you some sneaky value to the field if people are just ignoring that prop, I guess, altogether.
Yeah, and I mean his props haven't moved much, like 3.5 receptions. Again, like he's been smashing these, not smashing, but like pretty easily going over most of his props the last 5 weeks. So you got to notice that. I mean, like no one's really they're just not getting adjusted. Fields is playing a bit better, and now he's got like probably his softest matchup of the year. So yeah, I'm just staying on Mooney this week, and again the 3.5. I think that's an easy over.
All right. Well, we appreciate it big time. Everybody out there on the way out, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and follow at The Fantasy Grind. Geoff is on Twitter at Shander Show for me. Mike, appreciate it as always for him producing. And see, I guess the last time, no, Monday night. So I was going to say something about Andy Dalton and whatever, but it's not even applicable. So I'm not going to add any more salt to the wounds, right, my friend. Don't go anywhere out there because the NBA edition of the No House Advantage Strategy Show comes your way right now. So you don't even need to leave or do anything. All right, my friend. We'll see you Monday, brother.
See you guys.